Oh my goodness, what a powerful way to begin this ceremony. Stand up, stand up, stand up. Look around. Now, Hebrews 11 says faith is that substance, right? The substance that we hope for. We often kind of just read this verse and pass right over it without acknowledging what that substance really is. Faith is that substance that we hope for, the evidence of things not seen. When we talk about aloha, when we talk about love, when we talk about joy, that is the substance that we hope for. That's the substance that we want to share with each other. So I want you to turn around, look at everyone, and say, I aloha you.
I aloha you.
You aloha me. That is what we're meant. That is what we're meant to be. I aloha you. You aloha me. That is what we're meant. That is what we're meant to be. Feel that. That's that substance. That's the thing that we look for. That's the hope that we cry for. So continue to aloha each other. Continue to share that joy, share that love with one another. I don't know if you can feel it, but I certainly can feel it. It is a substance to me. So thank you, thank you, thank you. You can sit down if you want to. So of course, this is the last Sunday of the month of January, which is the month of faith. So the stories that I have to share are going to guide us in that direction eventually. There may be a few different stories that are woven together within what I have to share with you today. And I begin by saying to be fearless is to be faithful. To be fearless is to be faithful. What is it? Repeat it. Beautiful. And I want you to repeat that throughout the entire day, not just right now. Remind yourself of this. To be fearless is to be faithful, is to fill myself with everything that I hope for, the joy, the love, the peace, the aloha. If I fill myself with that, then my day is faithful. My life is faithful. And so I'm going to return to that several times throughout the talk. I'm going to begin with au ikekai mehemanu ala, which means to cross the ocean like a bird. And it's a beautiful Hawaiian proverb that speaks of how our ancestors were so much in tune with nature that they had no fear at crossing the vast Pacific Ocean. Thousands of miles on the open ocean. But yet they thought of themselves as being like the birds. The birds who sailed upon the ocean breezes or winds. They knew everything to look for. They knew where fishes would be so they could go fishing. They knew how to return to their homeland. They trusted in all of nature to be able to guide them as they sailed over the beautiful Pacific Ocean. And it wasn't always beautiful. There were tumultuous times at sea as well. But the more prepared they could be, the better off they were on the open ocean. So, au ikekai mehemanu ala, cross the sea like a bird. So today, I'm at this beginning portion, I'm going to focus on the eri. And how many of you watched it last week? Sunday. So you all didn't come to church. That's gotcha. So I watched it. We watched it actually on the internet and got to see how exciting it was. And I've been to a few eris, and I worked for Quicksilver for 15 years. And so all the times that we were able to do the celebration, the ceremonies, and then prepare for the event was quite incredible. Every year, whether it ran or not, was such an incredible experience to be a part of the eri. And last week's eri was one of the greatest eris that I have ever seen. The waves were perfect, and the conditions were perfect. The waves were extra big where people who thought they were safe on the sand were not safe at all. You know, the waves came through and kind of washed a lot of people out. Dogs were being washed into the ocean. And the lifeguards were on point that day. They had to be. They always have to be on point. So it was exciting to watch it from our house and not have to deal with all of the traffic and all of the crowds. So the question about the eddy is, Eddie would go, but would you? Would you go? Would you be prepared enough to know how to handle these big waves? Would you be prepared enough how to handle, and the waves can represent any of the struggles that we go through in life. So are we prepared to be able to handle these things? Will we be like Eddie to say, I would go? I definitely would go. I would not go. I surf, and I love to surf, but I might surf waves that are maybe, 4 or 5 feet overhead, so which in Hawaiian terms would be a 5-foot, 6-foot wave. And so those are no problem for me. However, waves of this magnitude, 40 to 50 feet, would be a problem for me. I am not geared up for something like the eddy. But what lessons can we learn from big wave surfing and last week's eddy? Oftentimes we think, and everybody thinks, that we can just faith our way to being great at something, right? We can just faith our way. We can just hope that we're going to get there. We're going to be able to do that. So many visitors come from all around the world thinking that because they see these great surfers just get out there and surf these big waves, that they can do it too. And oftentimes they are the ones that are being rescued and taken to the hospital, or much worse than that as well. They believed in their hope, their faith, without putting in the work. And I'm here to remind you that it takes a lot of work. To become what these guys do, to accomplish on these big waves, takes so much preparation and work. It takes a lifetime of work, in fact. And so I'm going to share a little bit of that. So of course, we're going to, again, every time that I'm talking about the eddy, I want you to think about what is faith and how are we working it, right? So a little bit of a brief description of who Eddie was. How many of you know the story of Eddie Aikau? So beautiful. So many of you already know his story. And it is quite a beautiful, profound, tragic story as well. Eddie was born, his name is Eddie Ryan, although he spells his Ryan with an O, Aikau. And he was born on May 5th, 1946. He died on March 17th, 1978. Very, very young. In 1968, he became the first lifeguard to work the North Shore, from Haleiwa all the way to Sunset Beach. He was the only one that the city and county had hired to look over this incredible 7-mile stretch of beach. One man. So Waimea became his post. Waimea became the place where he would frequent as a lifeguard, and that is where he saved over 500 people. He saved 500 lives. Nobody had ever died under his watch. And it was because of Eddie that the lifeguard program that we have now all throughout the state was instituted, because of what he had provided for the public during that time. So just one man saving that many lives on a 7-mile stretch is quite incredible already, just thinking of it in that way. So not one life was lost. In 1971, he became Lifeguard of the Year. In 1977, he won the Duke Kahanamoku Invitational Surfing Championship. And a lot of people like to think that Eddie was kind of the understudy for Duke Kahanamoku, that he was a protege of the Duke. But really, they both had that same heart, that same essence to share aloha everywhere that they went. And they were both incredibly talented ocean watermen. They knew every aspect of what it was like to be in rough seas, of what it was like to be competitive, but really not competitive. How many of you have seen the movie Waterman of the Duke? And Waterman is such a beautiful way to understand the heart of a Hawaiian. As talented as he was, as Duke was, he gave freely. People always wanted to compete with him, and he was like, okay. And he would just go swim and he would win every time. Because he did what he was taught to do. He did what was natural to him. And Eddie was the exact same way. He surfed big waves because he loved surfing these big waves. He saved people because he loved making sure that people were safe wherever he was. So the tragedy in the Eddie story, we can go ahead and click to the next one. So this was the contest. I'm going to go by what the slides tell me now at this part. But these are all the winners of all the eddies that have happened since 1984. And since 1984, all of the years that have passed, we have had only 10 winners. There's only 10 times that the eddy ran within those years because the conditions have to be right. So these are all of the winners. This was this year's poster. You can go ahead to the next slide. And this is the Hokulea. The Hokulea is our Hawaiian sailing vessel that already has revived the spirit of our ancient Polynesian voyagers from that time of discovery, from 4,000 years ago to now. So the Hokulea was the one that began the revival, the revitalization of our connection to our ancestors, of the stories that were perhaps lost in a long time that our Polynesian people were not sailing. We had to reconnect with that story. So in 1977, the Hokulea had made it all the way to Tahiti and back, and that was the first voyage, and it was a huge celebration during that time. In 1978, under the pressure of the media and the world, they wanted Hokulea to make another journey to Tahiti. And Eddie was a part of this crew. Everybody knew of Eddie's prowess with surfing, with being a waterman. So he was a very important part of this crew. So they had set sail from Oahu, making their way past Molokai and Lanai. Well, they didn't quite get to Lanai yet, but as they entered the waters between Molokai and Lanai, they, of course, reached turbulent waters. The winds picked up. Everything happened at that time. At midnight, the boat capsized, and they're stuck miles off of Lanai. We can go to the next slide. So this is Eddie on the Hokulea. Next slide, please. This is the boat, the Hokulea. Well, it's not capsized now, but I believe this is when they were towing the boat out. But it had taken on so much water, it sank. And then next slide. And this is where, about the point where the boat had capsized. So this is how far away they were from Lanai, and it looks close, but it's not that close. So that is where the boat flipped over. Eddie, being the strongest paddler, the strongest swimmer on the boat, going naturally to his life-saving self, wanted to save the crew. Midnight, cannot see anything. The crew told him, Eddie, please don't go. Stay here with the crew. We're going to be rescued. Just stay here. Hang on to the boat. We'll be fine. Eddie took his board, took a bag of oranges with him, and started to paddle towards Lanai. And he left the crew. And he left because of that innate feel that he had that I got to save these people. I got to make sure that this doesn't end in tragedy. On his way to Lanai, nobody knows what happened from there. Eddie went missing. They had never found his body, never found anything, any trace of Eddie again. His crew was rescued in the morning, and everybody was safe except for Eddie. He had given his life for his crew. He had given his life because he believed in his purpose to always give, to always know that he was aloha, and he had to take care of everybody. So he gave his life for that. Eddie would go. Eddie went. Now, the term doesn't come from this experience that the crew went through. The term comes from before one of the contests at Waimea. The waves were extra crazy on this particular day, and Mark Fu, who was an incredible big wave rider, was on the shore, and they were asking, everybody was wondering what they were going to do regarding the contest. And he said, well, if Eddie was here, Eddie would go. And that's where it came from Mark Fu. And tragically for Mark Fu himself, surfing at Mavericks in California, he also perished by surfing a big wave. But just like that, they gave everything. Just like that, right? That was their attitude. That was Eddie's attitude. That was Mark Fu's attitude. That was the thing that drove them, was to know that I am capable of doing this. I'm going to give it my all. That Chihu was right on point. I did not pay that guy. That was awesome. We can go to the next slide. Thank you. This is Luke Shepardson, who won the contest last week Sunday. And he was on duty as a lifeguard. He was on duty, and his boss told him, go ahead and surf. You can surf it. He went to surf it. Of course, he was on the invitee list. He surfed it, and he won the contest. And after he won, he finished his shift as a lifeguard to make sure everybody was safe. That's the heart of Eddie. So nobody more appropriate should have won that contest. And what Luke said afterwards, somebody asked him, how did you celebrate? He said, I went home with my family, we bought pizza, and we just ate pizza and then went to sleep. That was it. That was his celebration. You know how much money he won for riding 40 to 50-foot waves? $10,000. That's it. Sounds like, I don't know if that meant that was a lot or not, but $10,000 for putting your life at risk, surfing 50-foot waves, is not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. But that's what he won. He's able to take care of his family with that $10,000, able to give back to the community, able to continue saving lives because of who he is as a person. And he is the reflection of everything that Eddie stands for. Luke is that reflection. And it's something beautiful to consider when you look at Luke Shepard's life. It's quite amazing, actually. So that's Luke, the champion. You can go ahead to the next one. So what does faith have to do with all of this? With the thing that we know we are called to do, the thing that we are known or called to be, right? The other day I did a ceremony, a memorial ceremony, and the person who had invited me or who had introduced me to come up and speak, he said before he introduced me that this man, James, the thing I loved about him the most was that he was a human being. And I don't know if he intended it to be the way that I interpreted it, but it just made everything flow so much smoother to know that this man was not just being human, he was being. He was there for everybody. James was there for everybody in his life. He had lived 95 years. And in those 95 years, he had touched so many people that had come through his doors. And he was a silent man. But he gave his love all the time. He was always being with everyone. He was there for them. He looked at them. He alo, face to face. He looked at them, connected with them. They felt who he was as a person. This was quite a beautiful statement from the man who introduced me to come up and speak. So I used that as a part of my message to the people who were there that day. What does it take to be fearless? It takes us being faithful. It takes us being practiced. It takes us putting in the work and developing ourselves to become stronger, to become better, to know that with any adversity that we may face, we'll be able to overcome that adversity. Right? So I'm going to dive into a little bit of scripture here. James 2, 14 through 26. Within that, on verse 17, it says, in the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead. Faith without works is dead. Right? So we can have faith that we're going to one day ride those big waves, but if we do nothing, if we sit down and only watch videos of big waves, that doesn't prepare us physically to go ahead and paddle out. I tell you, the paddle out through that shore break will kill you. And I don't know if you saw the videos or if you were there at Waimea to see the shore break. They're 20-foot shore breaks. So these surfers have to break through those waves coming in to make it out to the channel, or not the channel, but the rip that takes you out to the point. But you're fighting these 20-foot waves as you're paddling out to catch the 40-foot waves. So what does it take to be prepared for that? My goodness. So there's a lot to consider when we consider what it takes to be faithful. So even in our belief system, even in the way that we live our lives, what does it mean for me to share aloha? We sing about it. It is defined within the songs that we sing. It is defined in what I had shared earlier. I aloha you, you aloha me. Our lives are meant to be aloha to everybody. That is what it's all about. But what really is aloha? To understand that is to understand the substance. that Hebrews 11 speaks about. Aloha, akahai, kindness, right? To be always shared through our gentleness with one another. Lokai, which is balance, unity, to be expressed through our harmony, understanding harmony. Olu, which is being agreeable with one another. Again, shared through our pleasantness, how we care for each other. Ha'a, or humility, always to express through the way that we are humble with one another, to express our breath completely where we are empty and to inhale, to fill ourselves back up with the beauty of life, with that essence of life. And then the last A is ahunui, which is patience, to be expressed through our perseverance with each other. It's not enough to just say aloha to each other. It's not enough. We have to understand it. We have to work towards understanding it. Work towards knowing it, practicing it, being it to one another. He was a human being. He was being aloha at every chance that he had. Eddie was being aloha with the life that he shared with the big wave community or surfers in general, Hawaiians in general. He was a culturalist without even thinking that he was a culturalist. He was just being him. So what is it for us? What is the thing that we believe and hope for in life? If we hope for joy, if we hope for love and peace, then we better be working for hope, joy, love, peace. We have to be working towards it all the time and being able to put it into practice with everybody that we meet. Whenever my wife and I go out, there's not one time that we go out where I'm not hugging people, or I'm not saying hello, or people are not coming up to me to just remember. This isn't because I work at making connections, filling up my phone book. This is because I share my ha all the time. I share that breath of life that we're meant to share. This is what it is to say aloha to each other. If I look at you and I say aloha to you, you better believe me that I'm going to be there to care for you, to look out for you, to make sure that you are okay. This is just how it is. And if we believe in God in that way, if we believe in whatever your belief system might be, if we're hoping for the best of things, then we better be working for the best of things. What does it take to be a big wave surfer? Expert surfing ability, paddling ability, knowing how to bail and when to bail when you need to bail, if the waves are way too big. Holding your breath. Some of those guys who are surfing, Mark Healy, for example, can hold his breath for over 8 minutes. He's one of the best divers in the world. And he has trained himself, his lung capacity to be able to handle 8 minutes. Incredible. Now, if he's getting tossed and turned in a big wave, I don't know if he can hold it for 8 minutes. But he's trained to hold it for 8 minutes. Staying calm is what allows him to hold his breath for that long. Teamwork. With all of the jet skis, all of the team that are there using the right equipment. Ocean knowledge, weather knowledge, equipment knowledge, body awareness, etc. Surfers, to me, are some of the greatest athletes in the world. 11-time world champion Kelly Slater is 11-time world champion because of the work that he put into his craft. There are no other sports that can say they have an 11-time world champion. I remember when he was at 6, we were all comparing him to Michael Jordan and to Armstrong, who was winning his bike contest. Jordan was winning all of his titles. And Kelly was winning all of his surfing championships. And then he went on to win 5 more after that. Incredible. His commitment to his art, to his craft. So they are some of the best athletes, but even the surfers that are just casual surfers are incredible too, because they are enjoying their time in the ocean. They're enjoying their time of just having fun. So it is said of the best surfer in the world that the best surfer in the world is the one having the most fun, whether you're riding a 2-foot wave or a 50-foot wave. The 10 commandments of big wave surfers, I'm going to kind of go through this quickly. Number 1, never take off on the first wave of the set, because if you eat it, there's 5 more waves behind it that will run you over too. So you don't do that. Let the white water control the movement of your body. Relax in the white water. Let it take you where it needs to take you. Once it calms down, you can come back up to the top. Always wear your buoyancy vest, life-saving. Control panic. Don't let fear, or let fear do its job by keeping you focused. That's what fear does, is it keeps them focused out there. Bail out in the smartest way possible. Learn to wipe out. Never go out all by yourself. Always take a partner if you're going to surf these waves that could kill you. Study the currents, ocean bottom, the wave peaks before paddling out. Learn to track swells and how to read the weather. Every surfer, they're weathermen or women, right? They know everything there is to know. They're meteorologists. And number 10, practice yoga and Pilates. Improve your eating habits and increase your lung capacity. So those are the 10 cardinal rules for big wave surfers. So to be fearless is to be faithful. To be fearless is to practice your craft, to know that everything that you have learned over time is going to help you survive. Faith is the bird who feels the light and sings when dawn is still dark. This is by Rabindranath Tagore. Faith is the bird that feels the substance, right? Is the bird that feels the light and sings when dawn is still dark. It just knows that the sun is going to come up again. So it puts its trust, its faith in knowing this, that the sun is going to shine. I don't have to worry about that. I can start singing now. So what Rabindranath was really talking about was, in effect, the people who change our lives the most begin to sing to us while we are still in darkness. All of the things we learn, all of the lessons that we can learn by all of these incredible, incredible people who have paved the way. If we listen to them, we're the ones still in darkness, learning from what they have to teach. So if we listen to their song, we will see the dawning of a new part of ourselves. And it's a beautiful way, again, to think about what faith really is for us. Faith is a bird who sings, knowing that the sun is going to rise. Faith is a substance of things hoped for, again, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11, Luke 18:42, and Jesus said unto them, receive thy sight. Thy faith had made you whole. He said, go ahead, see again. Your faith has saved you. It wasn't Jesus who miraculously healed the man. Jesus pulled out of the man the knowing that he was already healed. That substance was there no matter what. Only if the man opened his eyes to know that he was within that healing. Only if we open our eyes to know that we are within that aloha, that love, that joy. But too many times our eyes are closed and we're deaf to who we really are. That's the substance that we're talking about. Hope allows us to imagine what is ahead of us. Faith is knowing that what hope can only imagine, it already exists, although we can't see it just yet. This is by Wayne Dyer. And faith, well, actually, that was by me. This is by Wayne Dyer. Faith is a complete reliance on the power and goodness of spirit, and the firm belief that you are always connected to this goodness. Always affirm your faith and not your doubt. The ability to know faith and affirm it allows it to manifest within your life. So know your faith and know how to affirm it by doing the work, by practicing, by hardening ourselves, which is in effect softening ourselves to be open to everything that is around us. By hardening, I mean practice. Know what it takes to be aloha to one another. Slide 11. We can go to the next slide. Sorry. Oh, I read that already. You can go to the next one. And then the next one. So let's just leave it on that one. So to be fearless again is to be faithful. And I have a few things left to say here. Affirm your faith. To affirm your faith is in knowing that as the Hawaiians set sail, they looked at the horizon, not knowing what was beyond that horizon. But they knew that everything, all of the provisions they had was on that double-hulled canoe. Everything they needed. The women or men who had to fix the sail, the food that they had prepared that would last them months on the open ocean. They had all of their provisions. They were well prepared to navigate. The navigator knew every star in the sky. He knew every current, every wave, every bird, every star, or every cloud. He knew everything about nature, and that was what kept them afloat and able to find new island homes. Within 4,000 years, they found every island throughout the Pacific. Quite incredible. So to look ahead and to look on the horizon and to know that something beyond that horizon exists is what we need to affirm. Affirm your faith in knowing that my good health is here for me right now. I don't need to wait for that good health to come if I open my eyes and allow myself to understand that that is the substance, is my health, the wholeness of my health. And we can say this for everything from whatever we decide to do, anything that we hope for in life, to know that what drives us there is that current, that substance that rests beneath that. So be prepared, as our Polynesians were. Be prepared to know. Be still to know, to connect, as we connected through our aloha earlier. Be willing to know and connect. Be quiet to know and connect. That's the substance. If we are patient, quiet, if we listen, if we feel, that's the substance that we're looking for. If we have prepared ourselves to be whatever we want to be, chances are pretty good that we're going to get there because of our preparation. If we have prepared fully, this is what it takes. And so I go to Matthew 14, where Jesus had just fed 5,000 people. Fed the 5,000, he tells his disciples, go ahead and cross the lake. I'll see you on the other side. He went up to the mountain to go meditate. Came back, his disciples were stuck in the middle of the lake because they were scared. He walks out to the boat. Peter, they all see him walking in disbelief. So Peter tells him, Lord, if that's really you, tell me to come out. I'll come out and join you out there. Peter starts walking. As soon as the waves start getting too rough for him, Peter starts to sink. And he calls out to Jesus, save me. So Jesus reaches down and pulls him up and says, oh, you of little faith. Right? So this is the story that is told of Peter, who is built on faith, that we tell, regarding Peter, but he didn't have faith. He didn't have that faith. He had to learn to become who he became after that. But it was this moment where he had to realize that, man, I got to do the work. I got to put in more work to understand. They had seen all the miracles. They had heard every teachings of Jesus. They had seen what his life was all about. And yet Peter failed to put his trust and love and faith in God that he would be okay as he walked on that lake. Now, this is where the story takes a turn. If it was Eddie on the boat, right? If Eddie was on the boat, that's why I say that Jesus would have loved our Polynesians, because the courage and the faith that they had with doing everything that they had accomplished was quite incredible. So if Eddie was on that boat and Jesus had walked his way out, Eddie would have jumped out. He wouldn't have even asked. He would have jumped out on the water and ran to Jesus. And they would have embraced on the water, walking. And I imagine the other disciples in the boat talking story and looking at Eddie and saying, yeah, Eddie would go. Right? That Eddie would just not even think about anything. He would just jump out and walk and go. And that is how we have to be in our faith. Right? As we love each other, as we hope for these beautiful things, we have to be these beautiful things as well to one another. So I know we're out of time now. But again, to be fearless is to be faithful. Say that with me. To be fearless is to be faithful. To be fearless is to be faithful. Thank you so much. I want you to close your eyes, to breathe a little bit into that. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And one more time. Inhale. Exhale with a sigh. Holy Mother, Father God, I thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for allowing us to dive a little bit deeper, to know that this substance is you. Everything that we hope for, the hope, the joy, the love, the peace, the aloha, everything is you. That this substance already exists. And we haven't learned to dive down into it. We haven't learned to catch that big wave. We haven't learned to navigate our way beyond the horizon. And these are the things that we need to learn for ourselves. Is to be fearless about anything because we know that our faith will always carry us through, knowing that the substance is carrying us through. Allow us to wake up to this knowing and to be able to practice it every single day, every moment that we have, to be able to practice and imbue it and share it and teach it. And the more that we do so, the deeper into aloha, the deeper into you we become. That is who we want to be. At the end of my life, I want people to say that Ryan would go. That Ryan went. I want you to be able to say the same thing for yourselves, for each other, that we are so strong as a community. Our job is to bring aloha to this world. And it's not going to get there by us just saying aloha to each other. We have to do and be aloha to one another. Thank you for that encouragement. Thank you for that love. In your holy and precious name, I pray. Amen, amen, amen.